For this video warm-up, we're just going to practice adding color using a dark to light fade in all of these different areas within your warm-up design here. So you can choose the colors. I just chose any color that was sharpened up. Remember to use the hand sharpeners. And I just faded each section out to the white of the paper. Now, one thing we're going to practice today for this warm-up is basically adding the water like we did last time, lightest to darkest. So we're always adding it lightest to darkest to preserve the fade, but also practicing as we're adding the water to this, skipping over every other section so that you don't have two areas that are wet side by side that merge together, okay? So that'll be something that we practice. And then obviously holding the paintbrush by the grip like this in order to have good craftsmanship. I saw a lot of people just kind of holding the brush wherever and the water was going everywhere. So just a reminder to hold it like that. And then thinking about the amount of water that you're putting down, okay, as you're doing this. So I am going to start with my, my smaller range flat here. That's the paintbrush where the bristles are cut straight across. And I'm going to add my water lightest to darkest. Just like so. So this is just a reminder of what it looks like. Okay, so this is what our watercolor pencil looks like when you turn it to that paint by activating it by adding water. So I have something that looks like this. I am going to practice, okay, not doing consecutively this one, this one, this one, any one that borders this one. I'm going to jump over here to this one. Because this shape doesn't border it, it won't merge together with the one I just did. Okay, so I'm adding that color lightest to darkest. Okay, now as we're doing this together, I want us to skip every other shape, adding the water lightest to darkest. So I'll do one more. And then as we go through this, I want to talk about how much water that you're putting down. Okay, so for example, I've done this shape, and this shape. I'm going to kind of jump over to this one right here. So none of these, this one does not border really any of the other shapes. And so what I'm going to do is I've got a smaller area here. So if I'm working on a smaller area or painting in a smaller area, I really want to, when I take my brush out of the water, let me zoom you out. When I take my brush out of my water cup, I want to make sure that when I lift it out like this, that I tap off some of the extra water before I put it down on a shape that's very small. What tends to happen is that students will take their brush out of their water, they don't tap off the excess water for a smaller shape, and then they accidentally flood that shape, okay? If you're having sort of an issue where your water is going everywhere within your shape, you probably have too much water on your paintbrush, okay? So think about the size of the shape and how much water you really need. So this area here, let me see if I can zoom you in. This area here is, I would say, a medium size shape. So I am going to pull my paintbrush out of the water. I'm going to tap it a little bit and then add the water lightest to darkest. The more water you have on your paper, the paintbrush, the harder it is to control on your paper. So using that paper towel today and skipping around to any area that doesn't border the wet shape is going to be important. Now I'm going to do this one here. This one's not bordering any of the ones that I just did. And I'm going to tap my brush off. And fade it lightest to darkest. Now the cool thing about this is the ones that I did previously are for the most part dry. The water has soaked into the paper, so I can go back and do these missing areas here. This one's a little bit bigger, so I can use a little bit more water. I'm still going to tap a little bit of it off on my paintbrush, adding it lightest to darkest. Rinse and blot. I can do this one over here. This one's a medium-sized shape, so I'm going to make sure that I tap off a little bit more of that water so I don't flood that shape. Remember, you can always go back and re-wet your paintbrush, but it's kind of a little bit difficult sometimes to get the water off of your paper once it's on. I'm gonna try for this one here. Okay, so this one's a little bit larger. I tapped off some of the water, adding it lightest to darkest. This one here is a little bit smaller, so I'm going to make sure that I get a lot of the water off my paintbrush. Add it lightest to darkest. This shape here is a little bit bigger. Still gonna tap some of the water off my brush. Add it lightest to darkest. And I've got two small areas remaining, this one and this one. So as I dip my brush in my water cup, I am definitely going to get rid of that excess water. Just have the smallest amount. Okay, so as you're working on your final today, and you're adding water to color fades, you're always adding it lightest to darkest, okay, whatever that happens to be, whatever type of fade you're using. And then make sure that you skip around within your final. So you're not going to want to add water to two areas that are side by side. They're going to merge together. So just remember to skip around. And then you're also going to practice tapping off extra water from your paintbrush onto your paper towel. This is what my paper towel looks like right now. It's got tons of paintbrush drool on it. So eliminate some of that water based on the size of your shape.